We're in western Massachusetts today on the hunt for a pest that was accidentally introduced to the U.S. in 2014, the spotted lanternfly. Today we'll learn how experts in Massachusetts are monitoring this pest, its impact on the environment, and what Vermont is doing to keep spotted lanternfly out of the Green Mountains. This is how you slow an invasion.
These poles can get up to 24 feet, although once they're fully extended, they're basically just like flags in the wind. So it can get difficult the higher you go. I don't know if you can hear too, there's like a specific sound that it makes when you get an egg mass. I think most of the points that we found were over in the back.
Since 2021, the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources has been sending out teams of its staff to spot and scrape and scrape and scrape egg masses of the spotted lanternfly, SLF for short. The insect is native to China and Vietnam.
Spotted lanternfly is a leaf hopper, and it was introduced in the U.S. in 2014 in Pennsylvania on some landscape stone, and has since sort of spread outward from there, north, south, east, and slightly west. There's all this bittersweet and Virginia creeper and grape back here. I'm like, they've got to be in here. We first found it in a property with a lot of trucking, and that's how it spread to a lot of different places, is through human activity. So trucks, trains, people's cars. It can hang on at highway speeds. They're hitchhikers, basically.
If you look up nuisance in the dictionary, you might find a picture of the spotted lanternfly.
They do fly around. They do swarm in the late summer, early fall, so there can be a lot of them. And then when they're feeding, they excrete honeydew, which is basically the processed sap, so it's sticky. It drops on everything below. It can be slick too if it's on like a deck or something, but it attracts stinging insects. It grows what we call sooty mold, which is like a black mold that looks like soot. So it's just kind of gross. You don't want to be like sitting on your lawn getting rained on by sticky sap, and you don't want the wasps and stuff around you, so it's just kind of gross.
While we didn't see any of the SLF insect on our trip, there were hundreds of egg masses in this small section of woodland.
22, 23, 24, 25, 26 in this like covered little area here. Let me break this off. And there's a whole bunch more just hanging out in there. They just will lay it anywhere that they think is a protected spot. A female will lay 3 to 5. They have 30 to 50 eggs in them. They will mostly lay them in like linear rows. They lay them parallel to the way that the branch is going and on the underside so that it's protected from weather and predators and stuff. They'll try to hide it in like any little crevice and stuff. But those have a putty-like substance over them. They're about an inch, inch and a half long. So in here, in this little sort of roll of the tree, there's egg masses. Oh, and there's a few above your head as well. It's a little bit more difficult on the textured bark to get all the little stuff.
And because SLF can overwinter, the work starts when the snow flies.
We're out every Monday through Friday for a 7-hour day or so. And so, yeah, it's been December through now. We're still doing it. It's a lot, so it does require dedicated teams of staff. We respond to reports from the public. So that tells us sort of where a lot of these little pockets are. And then we spend a lot of time all winter long scraping the egg masses off of the trees to try and get rid of as many as we can. We're getting rid of quite a bit. We've scraped about 40,000 egg masses over the past winter from December till now. So that's, you can multiply that, it's millions of bugs that we're potentially getting rid of.
While there are effective insecticides to combat SLF, nothing beats a sharp blade and a sharper set of eyes. Which is where the paint scrapers and poles come in.
So we find going in and physically eradicating them is the best way to do it. So we're really trying to press down and scrape over it. We're not just lightly scraping it off. We're popping the eggs as we're going through. There is a cold and a heat cutoff for them, but it's not going to happen in Massachusetts. It might be northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, northern Maine, but it's likely able to survive. And as the climate gets warmer, they can spread further.
Besides the egg masses, SLF has one other telltale, the Ailanthus altissima, better known as tree of heaven. Scientists think this tree serves as a kind of singles bar for spotted lanternflies.
I think they just like to find each other on it to breed, and then they sort of swarm off of that as the season progresses. So they're super weak. They smell kind of like rancid peanut butter. Yeah, they're not great trees, but they are planted everywhere and then they grow prolifically, so they're just weeds. It's debated, and they're doing studies on how much it actually needs tree of heaven. I don't think that Vermont has a ton of Ailanthus altissima, and they've found that it can survive through its whole life cycle on maple and I believe a couple species of grapes.
When not hanging out at the local tree of heaven, SLF is also a threat to vineyards and orchards.
In an orchard, it would just be sort of a nuisance for a pick-your-own orchard. It doesn't really harm the production of the fruit, but it can take out vineyards. So that's what we're mostly worried about now, is grape production.
Currently, SLF has been reported in 50 cities and towns in Massachusetts.
Once it's here, unfortunately it's here. It can definitely spread to Vermont. Like I said, maybe not the northern portions that might be too cold, but it can and likely eventually will. Hopefully, along with that, some of the biocontrols that the USDA is working on can be used, and also hopefully sort of native species start to predate it.
Oh, in here too.
Yeah.
The best defense against SLF is vigilance.
Take a picture and report it to your local agricultural extension or department, depending on what your state has. They will go out and check that report to confirm whether that's what it is, and then they'll likely do the same thing as us, where they will either try to scrape the egg masses, put a trap out to monitor, to report it.
In the battle against spotted lanternfly, forewarned is forearmed. Ginger, have you ever seen spotted lanternfly or tree of heaven in real life?
I have. I actually saw spotted lanternfly nymphs just last week.
Back in Vermont, I caught up with Ginger Nickerson, Forest Pest Education Coordinator for UVM Extension. Is spotted lanternfly a threat in Vermont?
Yes. The Agency of Agriculture has intercepted both live and dead individuals over the past few years, and every time they've done really thorough searches in the areas where those individuals were found, and they haven't found any breeding populations. But because there are breeding populations so close to us in Massachusetts and New York, we think it's just a matter of time before there is a breeding population here. But if we find it fast enough, we could potentially eradicate it.
How about tree of heaven? Can we find that in Vermont?
Yes, again, there are, we know of a few individual trees of tree of heaven growing in Vermont, but we've never done a really systemic statewide search for it, so we don't know how much there is. There's not a lot. There's not as much as there is in Massachusetts and New York, but it is definitely here and it can grow here.
What's the best way to prevent spotted lanternfly in Vermont?
So while both the adults and nymphs are great hitchhikers, and it's always good to look on your vehicles and anything for that, the main way that spotted lanternfly is being spread from one location to another is when it lays eggs on an item, and it will lay its eggs on any item outdoors. So it could be your car, your boat, your bicycle, or any items that you've left outside like camping gear. So if you're going to a state where there is an active infestation, before you come back to Vermont, check anything that's been outside. If you find egg masses that look like patches of dry mud, scrape them off. And, you know, think about driving your car or washing your car, because a car wash, it's not a guaranteed way to eliminate egg masses, but it's certainly going to cut down the risk of bringing it back. And then if you're coming here to camp, don't bring firewood from other states into Vermont, because it could have egg masses on it.
Buy your firewood here, burn your firewood here. That's the rule, right?
Buy it where you burn it.
Yeah. Is prevention as simple as see something, say something?
Yeah, well, in addition to what I just explained about looking
Right.
for egg masses if you're in a state where there's an active infestation, and then if you think that you've seen any phase of spotted lanternfly, squish it first because we don't want it to escape, then take a photograph and submit the photograph to vtinvasives.org using the report it button.
Well, you heard it from Ginger. If you think you see spotted lanternfly, squish it and then take a picture. And go to vtinvasives.org, upload the picture and let someone know. My thanks to my colleague Ben Willis, who shot and edited this program. I'm Keith Silva. This is Across the Fence. Thanks for being part of our family.